A major royal controversy is now being linked to Princess Kate, Queen Camilla, and Meghan Markle, with explosive allegations involving leaked medical records, classified security information, and an alleged secret operation inside the monarchy. According to the claims behind this story, Princess Kate could face police questioning and potentially serious legal consequences if investigators were to establish that she was responsible for the alleged leak. However, these are allegations, and there is no established evidence presented here proving that Kate committed any crime or that Camilla and Meghan organized such an operation. The story centers on what is being described as an unprecedented digital data leak originating from inside the royal household. According to the circulating reports, highly confidential electronic files containing a combination of sensitive sovereign security protocols and private personal health details were improperly accessed and transmitted outside palace networks. In any modern institutional setting, the release of protected records triggers swift technical and security reviews. But within the sovereign framework of the British monarchy, where digital systems intersect with constitutional duties, state protection, and public interest, a potential breach of this magnitude carries immense institutional consequences. The leaked material described in these accounts reportedly encompasses two distinct categories of information. The first category involves private medical records belonging to senior members of the royal family. These documents are said to contain detailed clinical data, treatment schedules, and personal diagnostic assessments that are legally classified as special category data under British privacy laws. The second category involves high-level security information concerning Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and his immediate family. This material reportedly outlines security perimeters, travel routes, protective convoy logistics, and tactical contingency plans managed by the Metropolitan Police Service. The question of why Princess Kate is being connected to this alleged data breach lies at the very center of the emerging controversy. According to the claims, internal cybersecurity audits detected digital markers and access timestamps associated with digital devices and network credentials assigned to the Wales household. In the initial phases of the internal review, these digital indicators were reportedly interpreted as evidence that the unauthorized disclosures originated from within the Princess of Wales's immediate operational circle. The narrative claims that because administrative access codes and device identifiers pointed in her direction, the matter rapidly escalated from an internal administrative inquiry toward the prospect of a formal criminal investigation. In standard administrative and criminal inquiries, when digital evidence appears to implicate a specific account holder, investigators are legally obligated to evaluate whether unauthorized access or unlawful data exfiltration has occurred. This technical connection led to claims that Scotland Yard and specialized security units were examining whether formal questioning would be required. The mere prospect of a senior royal figure facing police inquiries under formal caution represents a historic institutional crisis, prompting extensive debate across legal and royal commentary channels. Yet, as serious as these initial claims appear, the reporting surrounding this controversy introduces a much deeper and more complex dimension. The narrative suggests that the surface-level technical trail pointing toward the Princess of Wales does not reflect genuine actions taken by her. Instead, the story alleges that an elaborate and deliberate operation was executed behind the scenes to engineer the appearance of guilt. But the most serious part of the story is not simply the alleged leak. It is the claim that Kate may have been deliberately framed. Let us examine the first major allegation in full detail. The central allegation is that Princess Kate could be investigated over the release of sensitive digital information. The material is described in the story as including private medical data and security-related information. At this stage, however, the allegations should not be treated as proof of wrongdoing. To properly understand this accusation, one must analyze the legal framework governing official secrets, privacy, and cybersecurity within the United Kingdom. If classified information concerning royal protection or state security is improperly disclosed, the primary statutory mechanism governing such actions is the Official Secrets Act, 1989. Under the provisions of this act, unauthorized disclosure of information relating to security, defense, or international relations by individuals who have been entrusted with that information in confidence constitutes a criminal offense. The allegations suggest that the security information in question involved the direct protective arrangements of the future king. Personal protection officers from the Metropolitan Police's Royalty and Specialist Protection Command operate under classified operational mandates. Their daily movement orders, emergency vehicle communications, secure radio frequencies, and tactical extraction protocols are treated with strict confidentiality to protect the physical security of senior royals. If documents detailing these protective strategies were leaked into unverified digital environments, the act would represent a severe operational vulnerability, transforming an internal administrative dispute into a potential matter of national security. Alongside the security assessments, the alleged leak involves private medical documentation. Under the Data Protection Act 2018, personal health information is categorized as special category data, demanding the highest level of legal safeguarding. The unauthorized extraction, possession, or distribution of sensitive clinical records is heavily restricted under Section 170 of the Data Protection Act, which penalizes the deliberate obtaining or disclosing of personal data without lawful consent. Additionally, if sovereign databases or secure cloud storage servers were accessed without appropriate authorization, Section 1 and Section 3 of the Computer Misuse Act 1990 would be engaged, covering unauthorized access to computer material and unauthorized acts intended to impair system integrity. The story claims that internal forensic examinations traced the data transfer to administrative user profiles linked to the Princess of Wales's private office at Adelaide Cottage. These accounts assert that electronic file transfers occurred during late-night operational windows, moving encrypted archives through external network relays. Because these claims surfaced at a time of widespread public sensitivity regarding royal health matters, the potential damage of such an unauthorized disclosure would be substantial. However, cybersecurity specialists and legal experts consistently emphasize that digital footprints on internal servers cannot be viewed as definitive proof of human intent or identity. In modern network environments, user credentials can be compromised through credential harvesting, malicious software, unauthorized remote network connections, or physical access by third parties. The presence of an administrative log is merely an initial data point in a complex forensic chain of custody. Without verifiable evidence establishing who was physically operating the device at the moment of transmission, an electronic record remains an unverified lead rather than evidence of personal misconduct. This brings us directly to the second major point of the story: the legal consequences, the reported involvement of law enforcement, and the prospect of criminal court proceedings. The story claims that if investigators were able to establish a direct connection between Kate and the alleged leak, the case could potentially move into the criminal courts. The reported maximum sentence of up to 14 years is being presented as a legal possibility, not as a prediction of what would happen to Kate. According to the narrative presented in these reports, Scotland Yard was requested to conduct a formal review of the digital evidence to determine whether criminal offenses had been committed. In the United Kingdom, police investigations involving high-profile institutions and sensitive state data are handled with meticulous procedural rigor. Specialist detectives from the Metropolitan Police's Counterterrorism Command, working alongside cybercrime units and sovereign protection liaisons, would be tasked with auditing network traffic, analyzing server logs, and establishing a rigorous evidentiary timeline. The story claims that forensic investigators identified a specific digital signature embedded within the metadata of the leaked files. In the context of computer forensics, a digital signature or metadata footprint includes cryptographic hash values, author profile identifiers, device hardware serial numbers, and local area network IP addresses. The circulating reports allege that this digital signature directly matched hardware devices and network interfaces located within the private working spaces of the Wales household. If law enforcement were ever to assemble evidence demonstrating that an individual willfully and unlawfully distributed protected security documents or private medical files, the case would follow the established statutory pathways of the criminal justice system of England and Wales. The initial investigative findings would be submitted to the Crown Prosecution Service, specifically the Special Crime and Counterterrorism Division. Crown prosecutors would then evaluate the case using the full code test outlined in the Code for Crown Prosecutors, which requires two separate hurdles to be cleared: the evidential stage and the public interest stage. In the evidential stage, prosecutors must determine whether the admissible evidence is sufficient to provide a realistic prospect of conviction before a jury. This means the evidence must be robust, reliable, and capable of proving every element of the statutory offense beyond reasonable doubt. In digital cyber investigations, prosecutors must establish not only that a specific computer or account was used, but also the specific identity of the individual operating that system at the exact moment the offense occurred. In the public interest stage, prosecutors must evaluate whether bringing formal criminal charges serves the wider interests of justice and public confidence, taking into account factors such as the seriousness of the breach, the potential risk to national security, and the wider institutional ramifications. If the Crown Prosecution Service were to authorize formal charges in a matter of this severity, the legal proceedings would formally begin at a magistrate's court before being transferred to the Crown Court for trial by jury. For offenses involving sensitive state security data or high-level breaches of official secrets, such proceedings would typically take place at the Central Criminal Court, known as the Old Bailey in London. Due to the classified nature of sovereign security logistics, the court could issue orders under Section 11 of the Contempt of Court Act, or conduct hearings in camera, meaning portions of the legal arguments and evidence would be presented in closed session to protect sensitive state security methods from public disclosure. The reported maximum penalty of up to 14 years mentioned in these claims represents the statutory ceiling established under specific United Kingdom legislation governing severe national security breaches, aggravated computer misuse, and major public office violations. Under the National Security Act and related statutory frameworks, individuals convicted of unauthorized disclosure of highly classified security material that severely endangers public safety or state operations can face lengthy custodial terms. Similarly, aggravated offenses under the Computer Misuse Act that result in significant risk to human life or national security carry maximum statutory sentences extending from 10 to 14 years, or, in the most extreme cases of espionage, life imprisonment. However, legal experts emphasize that statutory maximum sentences are strictly reserved for the most severe cases of intentional espionage, systematic state betrayal, or catastrophic sabotage. In practice, the sentencing of any individual in a British Crown Court is determined by independent judicial sentencing guidelines. Judges carefully weigh mitigating factors, including an individual's prior character, the absence of previous convictions, the absence of commercial or personal financial motivation, and the precise context of the alleged incident. Therefore, the reference to a 14-year sentence reflects a theoretical statutory ceiling found in the law books, rather than a realistic forecast of judicial outcomes in this specific scenario. Furthermore, The entire premise that Princess Kate could face criminal exposure is challenged by the emerging technical complexities of the case. In forensic cyber investigations, the discovery of an internal IP address or user profile is rarely the end of the inquiry. Sophisticated cyber techniques, including remote session hijacking, virtual private network manipulation, and network packet spoofing, are frequently utilized by threat actors to make unauthorized digital intrusions appear as though they originated from an innocent third party's internal workstation. As forensic analysts reportedly began conducting deeper forensic examinations into the server logs, subtle technical discrepancies began to surface. Analysts noted inconsistencies in the network routing tables, anomalous login timestamps that conflicted with known physical schedules, and cryptographic handshakes indicating that external proxy networks were actively interfacing with the internal servers. These technical anomalies raised serious questions among investigators about whether the initial digital trail was authentic or whether it had been deliberately constructed to cast suspicion upon Princess Kate. These emerging forensic questions mark the exact transition point where the narrative shifts from an investigation of a data breach into a far broader and more explosive controversy. The circulating claims assert that the evidence pointing toward Kate was not an organic consequence of her actions, but the calculated outcome of an intricate operation orchestrated to damage her standing within the royal institution. This brings the investigation into direct contact with the most sensational element of the entire narrative, the claim of a covert alliance operating behind the scenes. According to the reports, the digital breadcrumbs leading to Adelaide Cottage were deliberately engineered by external parties seeking to shift institutional scrutiny and public pressure onto the Princess of Wales. Continuing from the technical anomalies uncovered in the digital forensic audit, the investigation enters a territory that challenges every established understanding of royal dynamics. The story then makes a far more serious allegation. It claims that Queen Camilla and Meghan Markle were secretly working together to make Kate appear responsible for the leak. That claim, however, remains an allegation. No verified evidence establishing such an alliance is presented in the material. On its surface, the concept of a collaborative effort between Queen Camilla and the Duchess of Sussex presents an extraordinary narrative departure from established royal reporting. Over recent years, public commentary and official statements have consistently portrayed the relationship between the Sussex household in California and the senior working royals in the United Kingdom as distant, strained, and marked by prolonged institutional estrangement. Yet, the circulating claims allege that behind closed doors, shared strategic objectives led to an informal, highly confidential channel of communication. According to this theory, both figures allegedly identified a common institutional objective in redirecting intense public and media scrutiny toward the Princess of Wales. Utilizing intermediaries to coordinate technical and public relations maneuvers without leaving a direct, visible paper trail. The mechanics of this alleged operation, as outlined in the circulating reports, relied heavily on sophisticated digital deception designed to mislead forensic investigators from the very outset. The central claim asserts that the true perpetrators did not merely steal confidential files. They deliberately constructed a synthetic digital pathway leading back to Adelaide Cottage. In modern cyber investigations, this is accomplished through advanced techniques such as IP address spoofing, virtual private network chaining, session token hijacking, and unauthorized remote access to local network relays. The story alleges that by exploiting vulnerabilities within palace communication gateways, external actors were able to execute commands that appeared to originate directly from the IP address, subnet range, and hardware identifiers assigned to the Prince and Princess of Wales's private residence. When digital investigators perform initial sweeps following an unauthorized data transfer, automated security logs will naturally flag the specific local IP address and user profile associated with the event. In high-level computer forensics, this tactic is commonly known as a false flag operation. By injecting specific author metadata into the stolen documents, manipulating packet transmission headers, and timing the file activity to coincide with periods when Princess Kate was actively logged into palace systems, the operation supposedly sought to present Scotland Yard with what appeared to be incontrovertible evidence of insider culpability. However, cybersecurity specialists maintain that while surface-level server logs can be manipulated initially, comprehensive packet capture analysis, router flow telemetry, and hardware-level forensic examination almost always uncover the microscopic discrepancies left behind by remote intrusion tools. This brings the analysis directly to the fourth key point of the narrative, the question of motivation. In any serious investigative inquiry, establishing why an individual or group would undertake such high-risk actions is critical to understanding the credibility of the theory. The alleged motive attributed to Camilla is political and public image related. The story claims that Kate's enormous popularity created a threat to Camilla's position within the public perception of the monarchy. That is the narrative presented by the story, rather than an established fact. To place this alleged motive in its broader institutional context, one must consider the complex trajectory of Queen Camilla's public standing over several decades. Following her marriage to the then Prince Charles in 2005, Camilla undertook a gradual, carefully managed effort to build public trust and establish her role as a dedicated senior working royal. Her eventual elevation to Queen Consort and subsequently Queen represented a significant milestone in modern British history. However, public polling data in the United Kingdom has consistently demonstrated that the public perception of Camilla remains distinct from that of younger senior royals, with approval ratings that have historically fluctuated depending on royal controversies, media coverage, and historical recollections of the 1990s. In contrast, Princess Kate has consistently registered some of the highest public approval ratings of any living royal, frequently polling alongside Prince William as the most respected and favored figures within the British monarchy. Her global appeal, extensive media coverage, and the overwhelming public sympathy and support surrounding her recent personal and health milestones have cemented her position as the modern face and future foundation of the institution. The circulating claims allege that this stark disparity in public standing generated underlying institutional friction within palace walls, with certain courtiers fearing that the Wales household was completely overshadowing the current reign. The narrative asserts that certain palace factions grew increasingly concerned that the immense popularity of the Princess of Wales was creating an imbalance in public attention, diminishing the sovereign authority of King Charles and Queen Camilla. According to the claims, the alleged operation against Kate was conceived as a method of curbing this institutional momentum. By entangling the Princess of Wales in a damaging legal and security controversy, her unassailable public standing would be severely compromised, shifting the institutional balance of power and media focus back toward the monarch and his consort. While royal historians acknowledge that internal rivalries and competing press operations have existed within royal courts for generations, there is no verified evidence proving that Queen Camilla authorized or participated in any such illicit scheme. The next allegation focuses on Meghan's alleged involvement in the technical side of the operation. While the narrative attributes the political and institutional motivation to palace-based dynamics, it points across the Atlantic to explain the technical execution of the alleged breach. According to the claims, the operational infrastructure required to breach secure palace communication relays and fabricate false digital signatures was managed from California. The circulating reports allege that the Duchess of Sussex, operating from her base in Montecito, utilized private cybersecurity contractors and specialized digital communications consultants. In modern corporate and media environments, high-profile figures frequently employ digital reputation management firms and private security specialists to protect their private networks and manage online presence. However, the story claims that these technical assets were leveraged in an entirely different manner to conduct offensive cyber operations against internal royal network infrastructure. According to the narrative, technical operatives in the United States allegedly identified vulnerabilities in the cloud-based synchronization tools and remote access gateways used by royal administrative staff. By exploiting these entry points, the operatives reportedly gained unauthorized access to internal file directories containing sensitive medical dossiers and sovereign protection documents. Once inside the system, they allegedly manipulated server event logs, altered audit trails, and routed data transfers through a chain of encrypted proxy servers designed to terminate at network nodes linked directly to Kate's private devices. The story details how this alleged operation went beyond simple data extraction. It claims that the perpetrators specifically sought to plant digital artifacts on Kate's personal computer and administrative accounts. This reportedly included injecting matching cryptographic hash signatures into local system registries, generating phantom file opening timestamps, and mimicking local network hardware MAC addresses. The objective of this technical engineering, according to the claims, was to ensure that any routine law enforcement inquiry would immediately conclude that the files were extracted directly from the Princess of Wales's workstation. From a cybersecurity perspective, executing an operation of this magnitude against state-protected systems would require an extraordinary level of technical capability, financial resources, and operational secrecy. State-level sovereign data networks are protected by advanced intrusion detection systems, end-to-end encryption, and continuous monitoring by British intelligence services. Overcoming these defenses without triggering immediate security alerts would represent a major breach of sovereign infrastructure. At this stage, the claims detailing a California-based cyber operation remain entirely unverified, with no independent digital forensics, IP logs, or official indictments made publicly available to substantiate the story. As these allegations and conflicting forensic findings circulated within the inner circles of the royal household, the institutional atmosphere reportedly reached a boiling point. This brings the story to its sixth major point, the intense reaction of Prince William upon discovering that his wife was being targeted by an internal investigation and an alleged framing campaign. The story attributes an explosive statement to Prince William, claiming that he told senior aides he would not allow his wife to be blamed or imprisoned. According to the circulating reports, William reportedly declared, "I will burn the monarchy to the ground before I let these vicious snakes throw my wife to the wolves and put her behind bars." There is no independent confirmation provided here that William actually made those words. While the attributed quotation cannot be independently verified, the sentiment described in the reports aligns with what royal analysts know about Prince William's deeply protective nature regarding his family. Throughout his public life, William's approach to the media and institutional politics has been fundamentally shaped by the experiences of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. William has consistently expressed a determination to shield his wife and children from the invasive scrutiny, institutional isolation, and briefing wars that characterize previous royal eras. The reports claim that upon learning of the digital allegations pointing toward Kate, Prince William immediately intervened, confronting senior palace officials and demanding an exhaustive, independent forensic audit of the entire digital infrastructure. According to the narrative, William refused to accept the preliminary findings that implicated his wife, warning senior courtiers in the strongest possible terms that any attempt to scapegoat the Princess of Wales or cooperate with a public criminal prosecution would result in an unprecedented institutional rupture. The circulating accounts describe a total breakdown of internal communications between the Prince and Princess of Wales's household at Kensington Palace and the Sovereign's household at Buckingham Palace. William reportedly made it clear that his loyalty to his wife took absolute precedence over institutional protocol or the preservation of royal unity. The story suggests that William's aggressive stance halted the momentum of the initial Scotland Yard inquiry, forcing palace authorities to commission a deeper intelligence review into how the digital evidence had been compiled and whether external interference had occurred. The implications of such a confrontation cannot be overstated. In the constitutional framework of the United Kingdom, Prince William is not merely a senior royal, he is the heir apparent and the future Supreme Governor of the Church of England and head of state. A direct, irreconcilable conflict between the heir to the throne and the senior machinery of the monarchy threatens the very foundation of royal stability. If the reports of William's furious defense are accurate, they illustrate an unprecedented breakdown in trust at the very summit of the British state. This escalating confrontation between Prince William and palace officials placed the entire institution in an intolerable position, dragging the monarch himself directly into the center of the dispute. As the rift widened between the households, King Charles found himself confronted with an agonizing institutional and personal crisis, while behind the scenes, British intelligence agencies allegedly uncovered evidence that would alter the course of the entire investigation. The allegations also place King Charles in an extremely difficult position. The story portrays him as caught between loyalty to Camilla and concern over the potential impact of a major confrontation involving William and Kate. For a reigning monarch whose entire public mission has centered on preserving institutional continuity, stability, and public trust, the emergence of allegations involving his wife, his eldest son, and his daughter-in-law creates an unprecedented personal and constitutional crisis. According to the circulating accounts, King Charles faced immense pressure from competing factions within the royal household as the crisis escalated. On one side, his deep, decades-long devotion and loyalty to Queen Camilla meant that any suggestion of her involvement in an underhanded campaign was met with strong resistance and disbelief within his private office at Clarence House. On the other side, Prince William's uncompromising defense of the Princess of Wales presented the king with an existential institutional dilemma. Confronting his direct heir in a dispute of this magnitude risked fracturing the direct line of royal succession and inflicting irreversible reputational damage on the crown itself. Royal institutional historians point out that the modern British monarchy depends fundamentally on a unified and harmonious front between the reigning sovereign and the heir apparent. In historical moments of internal tension, the monarch traditionally relies on senior courtiers, private secretaries, and sovereign legal counsel to mediate disputes quietly behind palace doors, far away from public scrutiny. However, the circulating narrative claims that the sheer severity of the allegations surrounding this alleged data breach completely overwhelmed standard mediation channels. This left the king in an agonizing administrative deadlock, where any definitive intervention risked alienating either his consort or his future successor, threatening the delicate internal balance of the palace machinery and the long-term constitutional stability of the sovereign household. As internal tensions inside the palace reached an unprecedented level, the narrative introduces its climactic and most dramatic development. The final and most dramatic allegation involves MI5. The story claims that intelligence officials intercepted recordings allegedly involving Camilla and Meghan. If such recordings actually existed and were authenticated, they could dramatically change the story. But the material provided does not establish that such recordings have been verified. According to the claims, the discovery of these alleged intelligence intercepts triggered urgent, closed-door emergency meetings within Buckingham Palace. Under British constitutional law, the security service, known as MI5, operates under the statutory authority of the Home Secretary and is responsible for protecting national security from internal and external threats, including hostile state activity, espionage, and severe breaches of sovereign infrastructure. The story alleges that routine communications surveillance and sovereign cybersecurity monitoring conducted by British intelligence intercepted encrypted telephone calls and digital messages between individuals connected to Queen Camilla's inner circle and intermediaries representing the Duchess of Sussex in the United States. The circulating reports claim that these intercepted audio recordings contained detailed discussions regarding the coordination of the digital data breach, including references to altering server routing paths and timing public leaks to inflict maximum reputational damage on Princess Kate. In any formal judicial or intelligence context, the existence of audio recordings of this nature would carry immense evidentiary weight. However, legal experts emphasize that within the UK legal system, intercept material gathered under the Investigatory Powers Act 2016 is subject to stringent evidentiary rules and is generally inadmissible in domestic criminal trials without specific judicial oversight and specialized closed material procedures. If authenticated intelligence intercepts demonstrating state-level manipulation within the royal household were ever made public or submitted to a court of law, the consequences would be catastrophic for the institution. The legal implications would extend far beyond domestic data protection laws, potentially involving charges of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, misconduct in public office, and unlawful interception of communications. Furthermore, the international media fallout would represent an institutional shockwave not seen in Britain since the abdication crisis of 1936, commanding round-the-clock global broadcast coverage and raising fundamental questions regarding sovereign governance and constitutional integrity. So, according to the allegations presented in this story, the controversy begins with a sensitive digital leak, moves toward an investigation involving Princess Kate, and then expands into claims of an alleged operation involving Camilla and Meghan. The story further claims that William has reacted furiously, Charles has been placed under enormous pressure, and intelligence recordings could eventually become central to a legal confrontation. When all 8 points of this extraordinary narrative are connected, a complex and layered story comes into focus. It starts with the initial discovery of an alleged leak of private royal medical records and sensitive security dossiers regarding the future monarch. The story then moves to the technical audit that placed Princess Kate under intense scrutiny, raising the theoretical prospect of police questioning and severe statutory penalties under the Official Secrets Act. From there, the narrative pivots entirely, presenting claims of a covert alliance between Queen Camilla and Meghan Markle, driven by public popularity concerns, executed through sophisticated California-based cyber maneuvers that manipulated server logs to frame the Princess of Wales. This in turn sparks an explosive confrontation led by Prince William in defense of his wife, leaves King Charles paralyzed between family loyalties and sovereign duties, and culminates in reported MI5 intelligence recordings that threaten to expose the entire alleged plot in open court. For now, the key distinction is between what has been alleged and what has actually been established. Claims of a criminal investigation, a secret alliance, manipulated digital evidence, and intercepted MI5 recordings would require independent verification before they could be treated as confirmed events. In the absence of published forensic logs, official police charge sheets, verified intelligence documentation, or formal public statements from Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace, these accounts remain unverified claims circulating within specialized media spheres. The British monarchy has endured numerous crises throughout its thousand-year history, often navigating intense public scrutiny, internal familial divisions, and fierce institutional disputes. Yet, an investigation involving sovereign data integrity, national security statutes, and allegations of criminal conspiracy represents a uniquely modern challenge where technological forensics must separate genuine digital evidence from speculative theory. In high-profile matters involving the head of state and the immediate royal succession, verified evidentiary standards must always take precedence over unconfirmed reporting. If further verified information emerges, this story could take a very different direction. For now, the allegations remain just that, allegations. As the global public and legal observers continue to monitor developments surrounding the British royal family, the questions raised by these reports highlight the immense power of digital information and public perception in modern institutional life. How do you view these emerging claims regarding the alleged digital breach and the reported internal tensions within the royal household? Do you believe these allegations reflect an underlying institutional struggle, or are they an unverified media narrative fueled by speculation? Share your analysis in the comments below, and ensure you subscribe and enable notifications to stay informed with balanced, factual, and comprehensive reporting on this developing story.